Thank you. What is a conservative? This is the first and most vital question at a Conservative Political Action Conference. I want to thank Andrew Cooper, Warren Mundine, and all their many volunteers and observers and supporters who've come from a long, long way to help. And I want to thank you, because this is what it's all about. It's not about two men, Warren and Andrew. It's about conservatives, good citizens. We're among real people today, and we're among real humans. In this room, we have people who think, who appreciate, and who want to contribute to restoring our country. So now I prepared some comments, but after comments yesterday, I want to reinforce what Nigel Farage said, and also Warren Mundine and Ross Cameron. So I've changed my speech considerably, so I'm going to read from notes. For me, a conservative is someone who thinks critically and has the awareness of our world's core realities, and who thinks critically and has the awareness of our own species' reality. An understanding, appreciation, and celebration of reality. Someone standing up and protecting reality as our natural state that best enables and delivers human progress and security. Yet we live in a world where even conservatives, known for our optimism and positivity, are feeling confused, dismayed, frustrated, fearful, concerned, angry, and sometimes hopeless. Thomas Sowell said it best: ours may become the first civilization destroyed, not by the power of our enemies, but by the ignorance of our teachers and the dangerous nonsense they are teaching our children. In an age of artificial intelligence, they are creating artificial stupidity. Today, many conservatives search for understanding, clarity, engagement, and being heard, because today governments do not listen. Instead, they seek to control. When we see, hear, and feel the absurdity all around us in the West, we realize we're engaged in a war for the heart, the soul, the mind, and existence of our society, our nation, civilization. Basic human rights, lifestyle, and even our species. Yes, even our species. How can we replace our concern, our fear, with constructive feelings, like hope, like calm confidence, like positive openness, reassured vigor and excitement? Possibilities for a better world and for restoring our Australian lifestyle. As conservatives, how do we support each other? How do we work together to restore freedom, express ideas, encourage and support each other, revive hope? We need to work across the spectrum, not as parties, but as unified forces for the conservative side of politics to restore our country. So we can get back to doing what humans do so well and naturally, improving society and progressing as a species, as a civilization, as families, and as individuals. So I was going to invite you to step back at this point and examine our society, but what I want to do is talk about something that we need to be on guard from within. We're not being attacked just from outside, and we are certainly being attacked from outside. We need to be on guard from something coming from within. I want to make 2 points. CPAC can only thrive as a people's movement, not as a Cooper movement, a Schlapp movement, a Farage movement, only as a people's movement. And in that, unity is crucial. I am a conservative, and I want conservatives to thrive. I support CPAC, and I'm loyal to the many people coming up to thank me for my stance, and that's much appreciated. But that's not my job. My job is to help Warren achieve his aims for CPAC that he so clearly said this morning. And that requires putting parties and politicians under the spotlight, setting them aside, not papering over the cracks in parties. I wholeheartedly endorse Ross Cameron's viewpoint. Yesterday, we saw differences of views rearing their heads, and I welcome that. Nigel Farage's call for the people to be energised, regardless of party, to be energised, a people's movement. Whereas Nick Cater said, we all need to go back to the 2 old parties. So I must address that issue. So I've made a new speech, and then I invite you to decide. And I'm encouraged by Dan Tehan, National Party member, I think, in Victoria, who had the courage, so rare in politics, to admit his mistake in withdrawing from and allowing the abuses that occurred under the Morrison government driving the states to do what they did for the last 2.5 years. Dan Tehan, thank you for your guts. I have great pride in celebrating Jared Rennick, Pauline Hanson, Alex Antic, George Christensen, and Craig Kelly. I will now speak with them in mind and in my heart. If there's time, I'll get back to the speech I was intending to deliver. I notice my time's been cut. So let me start with a review of some of the information presented this weekend. While Jacinta Price, Nampa Jimpa Price, and Catherine Deeves are awesome, and I love them dearly, and I respect them and admire them, they are not Australia's bravest women. Nampa Jimpa Price wholeheartedly needs and deserves that award of freedom yesterday. That the title of bravest woman in Australia has gone to Pauline Hanson for 25 years. Pauline has fought the battles we have all talked about this weekend: family, community, Christianity, border protection, the Indigenous industry, our flag, our veterans, freedom, our lifestyle, our very way of life, our exports, our industry, our agriculture. It is ironic that the omnipresent party in this event is the same party that sent Pauline to jail to shut her up, the Liberal Party. After being released and exonerated, Pauline put aside her time as Australia's first political prisoner to lead One Nation in the fight for conservative values. This should never be forgotten, always remembered, especially with the release of a new national anti-corruption body lacking in checks and balances that One Nation expected to be there. In this last election, Australia's COVID response asked many questions of our elected leaders, particularly federal. Questions like, what happened to my body, my choice? What happened to the vaccine approval process? What happened to freedom of movement and freedom of association? What happened to the sanctity of the doctor-patient relationship, the confidentiality of the doctor-patient relationship? What happened to free speech? And how could a virus infect you in a small business, but not in a big business? Finally, where were the bloody Liberals and Nationals for the last 2.5 years? I can tell you where they were, calling me names for standing up for the very values they now embrace at this conference. One Nation went to this last election defending conservative values and fighting for your freedom, our freedom. Senator Ralph Babet, who's in the audience, and the United Australia Party were there defending your freedom. The Liberal Democrats were there defending freedom and standing up against the genuinely evil Dan Andrews regime. And as I said, Senator Rennick was there, Alex Antic was there. And good on Topher Field for his courage. And I urge everyone to buy his movie Battleground Melbourne, available in the foyer. It brought me to tears. It is just such a stark, horrific portrayal, but an accurate portrayal. In this last election, the Liberal Party and the National Party chose to preference the Labor Party ahead of One Nation in many races. In the end, delivering the Senate to the ALP and neutering the Liberal Party. So what the hell is going on? Like many people here, I do hope the Liberals rediscover their roots in true liberalism, true conservatism. It would, however, be unbelievable if the Liberals achieved that in a single weekend-long pep rally. Where is Peter Dutton, can I ask? Seriously, I thought I was coming to CPAC. It feels more like LPAC, Liberal Political Action Conference. I must say, CPAC is back from their 3-year COVID hiatus with a very short memory. Returning to their conservative roots will take fundamental changes in the power structure of a party that quite simply sold Australia out. The best way to help the Liberal Party, for those who want to help the Liberal Party, is to expose the cracks, not paper them over. And not just during COVID, but going back to the days of John Howard and his implementation of the 1997 UN Kyoto Protocol that stripped property rights from farmers to meet targets imposed by the UN without compensation, and going around the Constitution to do so. That has never been set right, and we need to set it right. If the Liberals want to embrace conservatism, now that setting that right might be a good place to start. Who was it that locked Western Sydney residents into their homes and put troops to the streets to keep them there? Who was that? Gladys Berejiklian's Liberal government. Who closed their state off to the rest of Australia, imposed business closures, restricted movement, and forced medical mandates on their citizens? That was the Liberal Marshall South Australian government. Who changed the rules to allow emergency health orders under the Biosecurity Act and then tore up the vaccine approval rulebook while sharing your vaccine status with anyone who wanted to see it? Always remember that. That was the Liberal Morrison government. If the Liberal Party want their supporters to hold the line, as we heard yesterday, then they need to change their leadership, change their policies, apologise for their failures, and start again truthfully and honestly. And they need to call a royal commission into COVID, although maybe under Albanese, it might be better if they just let the senators get on with having a Senate select inquiry into it, because we can ask the questions that need to be asked. Liberal Premier Perrottet could do that right now. He could have an inquiry. I also heard a speaker in favour of retaining the two-party system, Nick Cater. I disagree completely. Nigel Farage said, go and elect the best people you can, regardless of party. And if the Conservatives have governed as Liberal Democrats, Social Democrats rather, get rid of them. It was not a two-party system that delivered Conservatives a victory in Italy. That was a multi-party coalition. It was not a two-party system that delivered Conservatives to government in Sweden. That was a multi-party coalition. While Brexit did deliver the first black eye to the globalists, as another speaker mentioned, the Conservatives didn't do that. It was one man who built up an army in the people. And that's what we need here. Nigel Farage did that. Working outside the establishment parties. And it was not the Republicans that won the presidency in 2016. It was Donald Trump. The Republicans tried to scuttle him. It will not be the Republicans that regain Congress in a month. It will be Donald Trump and his Make America Great Again movement. And they will retake Congress over the dead body of the establishment Republicans. Can a unified Conservative movement achieve more than a disunited movement? Well, of course it can. That's why we're here, isn't it? We are people from all parties, united in the desire to defend Conservative values. And we can win this fight. Just as victory in 2 world wars was not any nations alone, rather nations came together, allied in a single cause to defend against evil and restore freedom and prosperity. Once again, after a long period of peace and prosperity, we find ourselves in a fight for freedom, for Christian and conservative values. In a war against neo-paganism masquerading as wokeism. In many ways, this is a new world war. It is a war that does not need to be fought with one party. It is a war that must be fought with one community. One community. It is not time for a single Conservative party. It is a time for all allies to unite and fight side by side with a clarity of mind and purpose. And so I implore everyone here, now is the time, because as Shakespeare said so eloquently, once more into the breach, dear friends, once more. Let me now resume scheduled programming, see how long I've got. That's the end of time. So one thing I want to say is government well, I want to say that in response to the globalist New World Order and Great Reset, we must, as Conservatives, apply the Great Resist and the Great Restoration and the Great Restoration of nation. While government is necessary, good government is necessarily limited. Fundamental rights of individuals are above the rights of government. I am, and I hope we all in this room are proud to be Conservative. We should be proud To succeed in our great resist, we must be proud. We must get off our knees, stand up straight, and get off our ass together, united around not parties, but around conservative values. We have one flag, we are one community, we have one nation, and we've got one planet. Let's make this global.
No.